This is Friday Evening's Undercard. On our wrestling show today, Tony Gunn fights back, Thunder Kitty makes her debut, and Crazy Steve uses his bag again. Welcome everyone to Friday Evening's Undercard. I'm Gentleman John and I'm going solo today, covering episode 1019 of Ohio Valley Wrestling Television. Alright, so the episode starts off outside the ring. Commentators are out there. They note that the OVE guys are over on the other side of the ring, and they're just over there causing a stir, making a scene, yelling back and forth. OVW sucks, this, that, and the other. Tony Gunn comes out. And if Jim Ross was on the commentary for this, he'd be saying business is about to pick up, because it's about to pick up after what went on last week where they spit on Tony. So Tony comes out, grabs the microphone. He calls out Sammy, says, "Hey, Sammy, get on up here in the ring." Sammy didn't want to do it. Tony walks over to the ring ropes and spits on Sami Callihan. Obviously, that's a pretty big deal. Sammy jumps the rail, gets in the ring. Him and Tony start going at it. The other guys from OVE, Ohio versus Everything, if you're not familiar with Impact Wrestling and who those guys are, they jump him in the ring, start beating up Tony. All five of them. It's 5-on-1. Tony's obviously not going to, beat all five of them. And then they end up getting the championship belt from Tony, hit Tony right in the face, and then that's when the locker room finally clears out. All the OVW guys are coming out trying to save Tony. My big question with this is, why did it take so long for him to get out? Because it took them forever to get out. It had to have been 2 minutes that the five OVE guys were in there just beating up on Tony before anybody came out. But, that's just how it happens. I mean, I understand sort of why it has to happen. It's just, it's a bad look because, you think about in baseball, if somebody charges that pitcher's mound, both of those dugouts are clearing out real fast. And so, yeah, just something that stood out to me. Second segment of the night, you go to the back. You've got King's Ransom in the back. Crimson comes into the locker room with a referee and says that he spoke to Dean Hill. Dean Hill has put him in the gauntlet match for the television championship, and so that the Khan brothers are not going to be getting their rematch thing against Crimson that night. Obviously, they're angry about that. They want a new shot at the tag belts since they got screwed out of them a couple of weeks ago, but it's not going to happen tonight. First match of the night now, you've got Drew Hernandez against Justin Smooth. Obviously, this match has been brewing for a couple weeks after Drew hit him with the low blow in a gauntlet match a couple of weeks ago, and then Drew, I believe it was last week, got him with the low blow, and then that caused him to lose the TV championship. So this one's been going on for a couple of weeks here. Drew immediately takes a shot at a low blow, and it gets blocked. Drew gets knocked outside the ring. A low blow using the post comes from Drew. Real stiff clothesline. Smooth's making some comebacks. He gets immediately shut down. Hernandez tries to beat Smooth with his own Street Justice move. He missed it. Smooth does a comeback. Really solid spine buster. A bunch of selling as far as the low blow attempt from Drew goes. Drew made a counter. Smooth goes over to the corner. I think he got up on the second rope, but he may have just been down on the mat and basically collapses forward and does an accidental headbutt right in the groin. During the replays, the referee has got this classic look on her face, just well, all right, I guess it happened. Then Drew finally gets up, and Justin hits him with the Street Justice for the win. The match went, looks like 5 minutes and 52 seconds. So that's a pretty good match, pretty good TV match. Then you go into the gauntlet for the TV title. First match is Crimson against KTD. Crimson did this fun little spot, just holding KTD by the head so that KTD couldn't get close enough to hit him. And I'm going to come back to that in just a second here. Basically, Crimson just starts beating up KTD in the corner because KTD hit him just a couple times too many and he didn't really like it. Crimson shoves the referee, so it's a DQ win for KTD, but Crimson just keeps beating on him, and he's unable to continue. You see McNaylor get in the ring, and he just waves it off, says, okay, he's not able to continue. Okay, so this is as good a place as any to sort of talk about this, because this match offers a great look at what's going on here. So you have Crimson, who, according to his bio, is 6'6" and weighs 252 pounds. I do not know how much KTD weighs. I can tell you from looking on the screen that he has to be every bit of a foot shorter than Crimson. He's got to be 5'6" or 5'7", and I'm pretty sure he's not the smallest person on the roster. Now, this is not taking anything away from him as a worker. Don't think I'm trying to knock him as a worker. You know, both of these guys look great. They look like $1 million. They're both in great condition. They're both great workers. But it's really hard to take this as like an equal athletic competition. You know what I'm saying? Because you just don't see this in other combat sports. And okay, yes, I know pro wrestling it's not MMA and it's not boxing, you know, but there still has to be like a look of legitimacy to it to me. And so, like I say, this is not to take anything away from KTD. He's probably 5'7", 5'6", 5'7", and I would guess he's probably about 150 pounds. The truth is, just to show that, like, if you're presented right, like, size doesn't make that much of a difference. The best pound-for-pound boxer in the world right now is Vasyl Lomachenko, and he's 5'7", and he weighs 135 pounds. And at the same time, arguably the best ever draw in the history of the UFC is Conor McGregor, who I think is 5'8" and about 155. But no one would ever think either one of those guys should be stepping into the ring. In the case of Lomachenko, the equal for him would be Anthony Joshua, who's the world heavyweight boxing champion, who's 6'6", 250. It doesn't look right. You would never do that. And the same thing with Conor McGregor. He would never step in the ring with Brock Lesnar, right? There's just too much of a difference. And so that's what makes a match like this look really weird, is that KTD's got to be giving up 80 pounds and every bit of a foot. He's a great worker, but it just looks weird. And the same thing goes with a guy like Dimes. Dimes is a great worker, but he's in there with, I want to say I watched an old OVW tag match where it was him and two partners, and they were going against the Bro Gods back when they were still a team, you know. And he was in there with Dustin, and you look at Dustin, and Dustin, I think he's like 6'3", looks like $1 million, and he's in there with KTD, and there's just, or Dimes, I'm sorry, he's in there with Dimes, and there's just such a size difference that it doesn't make sense. So for me, I actually think, because OVW does have some really great workers who are just smaller, right? It almost seems like they would benefit from having weight classes. And I'm not talking about like the cruiserweights, like what WWE does where they turn them into like a sideshow. I'm talking like weight classes that are actually treated real, right? Because there's nothing in boxing or in MMA, there's no different treatment of McGregor or Mayweather or Lesnar or Anthony Joshua or Lomachenko or Roy Jones Jr. or any of those guys. And yes, I know Roy Jones doesn't fight anymore. So it's like you could make a heavyweight at 200 pounds or up, because you don't want to go much over 200, because there's probably not a heck of a lot of guys who are much over 200. And then you could do a light heavyweight from, say, 175 to 200, and then, you know, whatever, you call it welterweight or whatever. If you don't want to call it lightweight, you say welterweight is 175 and below. And so at least then there's divisions. And so you treat the match with, let's say, KTD and Dimes for the OVW welterweight championship. You treat that with the same seriousness that you would treat Tony Gunn against Dustin Jackson for the heavyweight championship. And so that could work. But anyway, I've spent a bit of time on that. That's just sort of me dreaming out loud, if you will. Anyway, just a quick break in the action, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to follow us on social media, we can be found on Instagram at FridayEveningsUndercard, on Twitter at FUndercard, on Facebook by going to facebook.com/FridayEveningsUndercard. You can reach us via email at FridayEveningsUndercard@gmail.com. You can find Ohio Valley Wrestling on all your favorite social media sites and at ovwrestling.com. Please have a listen to our interviews with Ohio Valley Wrestling stars Tony Gunn, Sam Thompson, King's Ransom, and Callie. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and give us that 5-star review on iTunes. It'd mean a lot to us. Now, let's get you right back to the action. Back to the gauntlet. Next match. Espinoza against Melvin Maximus. Espinoza goes for a quick cover. Melvin does a nice running power slam. If you watch classic WWF, it's very similar to the move that the British Bulldog used to make. Pinfall, 30 seconds or so. Next out is Jaden Roller going against Melvin. They note that Roller's Espinosa's tag team partner. Roller has a great look. He's in great shape. He looks like a main eventer, at least for me, looking from the outside. Same thing, 30 seconds in or so, he hits that Davey Boy Smith power slam coming out and for the win. Now you've got Melvin against Zoe. Zoe goes to the buckle, takes a clothesline with a no-sell. Melvin takes him out with a shoulder tackle, goes for a body slam, can't get it. That's from Melvin on Zoe. Zoe hits him with a Samoan drop. I think they call it like a Sazoan drop or something like that. It's a Samoan drop. And then he hits that big Vader splash for the win. Maybe a minute or so this match. I didn't actually write it down. Then you get Zoe against Shiloh Jones. Obviously, Shiloh is the champ. He comes out dancing. Big D, his manager, goes into the ring. He gets thrown over the top rope. Shiloh comes in. He's still got his ring gear that, if you read on Facebook, this will probably be funnier to you. Shiloh's still got his ring gear that looks like he bought it at my mom's consignment shop. Big D tries to interfere. Zoe just keeps moving out of the way, so D keeps hitting Shiloh with these big elbows and leg drops and splashes and everything else. Eventually, Zoe hits Shiloh with a spear, and he gets the 1-2-3, and there you go. Zoe's the new television champion. Next segment takes us backstage. The It Girls are back there, where you have Jay Lee comes in. Callie's standing there holding the belt. Just did an interview with Callie, by the way. You can check that out as you're listening to the show here. Jay Lee says that Callie's an airhead for taking the title shot. That really the only reason Jay Lee gave them the title shot was to keep Brittany from getting it. And Callie says that she loves airheads. Yeah, that's your women's champion. If you can't tell, it's I'm not a fan of the way she's being presented, but that's just me. And then we have an unidentified wrestler break in to the conversation. She says they're being loud and says something about using inside voices. And then she leaves out the back door that's right behind them and says she's going out to the ring. We have no indication of who this person is. But then we go out to the ring and they break in with this black and white promo. Actually, the ending of it looked like the old Looney Tunes ending. Was it Looney Tunes? I think it was Looney Tunes. That's all, folks. That's how the ending of it looked, with like the graphic coming out of the middle. And okay, so and there's like 1920s big band music playing in the background, and we get introduced to who this is. This is Thunder Kitty, and she's in the ring with Miss Hannah. Miss Hannah is apparently from Toledo, Ohio. I have a lot of friends in Toledo, Ohio. But anyway, so you have Thunder Kitty, who I think it was McNaylor, or maybe it was the ring announcer. I can't remember. The 97-year-old wrestling extraordinaire. And it says she's been wrestling since 1946. Yeah, I don't know what I'm seeing here. I really don't. I'd really like to get into it, but I have no idea what's going on here. You've got the announcers. I think it was McNaylor said she was trained by Billy Wolf and Mildred Burke. I heard a Strangler Lewis reference in there. So here's the thing. I know, generically speaking, who those people are. But here's the catch. If I didn't listen to Jim Cornette's show, I wouldn't know who those people are. Because I'm not like a huge... I would say that I am a reasonably well-versed television wrestling historian, that I know a little bit about what I'm talking about as far as wrestling that's been seen on television. But going back that far, I just don't know, and I admit that I don't know. And so I really do wonder how many casual fans would get the Billy Wolf Mildred Burke reference. Anyway, McNaylor just keeps going on and on about the 97 years old, and it almost seemed like an old Bushwhackers promo where, we've been tag team champions in 37 countries. 37. Like, I felt like that was McNaylor. 97. One of the weird things about this is that this Thunder Kitty, and I really don't know, is she like a big name in Louisville or what? Because I don't I don't get it. I get what she's going for, that she's like, I guess I get what she's going for, that she's delusional or something like that. But it's really obscure. Like the whole, the Jay Lethal thing where he was delusional and thought he was the Macho Man, you know, that was, I guess, a little more with the times or whatever, maybe you could say. But, you know, saying that you're, you know, circa 1946 Mae Young is, I don't know, it's a little different. And then you've got Hannah on the other side of the ring who looks fantastic. I mean, and this is not to take away from Callie or Jay Lee or anybody, but I think if you put them in a line and you say, like, which one of these people has the best look, which one of them looks like the best athlete, so on and so forth, you know, I'm probably going to go with Hannah, and that's just kind of taking a quick look. Like, she looks the most athletic, you know, just really like the person who I would think is going to be the main event, and then she gets beat by the delusional person. So anyway, that's what you had. Hannah does a cool flip into the corner and then hits her with a forearm. Tries to roll her up into a small package. Gets a 2 count there. Then Thunder Kitty distracts the ref. It was like the most old school distraction ever. She just like points outside the ring and the ref turns around, hits her with a thumb to the eye, and then gets a small package for the win. And that's all I had. I'll say that my final note for this was Jesus wept. And on that, we're off to the next segment, which is Colton Cage and Dustin Jackson in prison. They're talking back and forth to each other on these video phones, and it's just weird. I don't understand what's going on. There ends up being a scene where, like, Colton's there and he's there with Dustin's girlfriend, and then they run off. I know Dustin was like, he was threatening Colton over the phone, and I'm just like, well, that probably wouldn't really work, because like they're not gonna let you do that while you're sitting there on a prison phone. Like, the guard would come get you real fast. Anyway, yeah, I'm still not a tremendous fan of the whole Colton Dustin thing. I just don't get it. You know, Eric and I talked about it last week. The whole bringing the girlfriend into it thing, it doesn't really work. It worked for Matt Hardy and Edge because it was real. Like, Edge really had run off with Lita, and so they just let them do their thing right out there on TV. But anyway, so I just don't understand what's going on with the Colton Cage Dustin thing. It seems like the whole blow up of the Bro Gods could have worked fine if it was just them. Because, I mean, there's going to be heat, so you let them drag it out. You go 3 or 4 Saturday night specials, and you just drag it out, and it would work really good. But, you know, that's not the way it's gone, and it's just weird. The same thing, the domestic violence thing last week kind of gave me a sour taste. Okay, final segment of the night. No, not the final segment. Looks like the second to the last segment. Final match, though. The Void, Nigel and Chase, are attacked basically as they're coming out of the curtains by Crazy Steve and Amon. Obviously, Crazy Steve's back from suspension. If you follow him outside of wrestling, so of course we know that he wasn't, like, you know, really suspended, but he actually went and did like some wrestling schools over in England. And a really interesting fact, and I would love to have him on the show to talk about this. An interesting fact about Steve is that he is legally blind. Now, I don't know how many people know that, but Crazy Steve is legally blind. And like I say, I would absolutely love to have him on the show to talk about that, because I think that's unbelievable. You know, that's awesome. So they're working really stiff outside the ring. There's no bell yet. Nigel goes for a leap over the top. He's slapped out of the way and just eats it right down onto the mat. I mean, he just flat-backed it right on the mat. And it's like, oh, that had to hurt. Nigel's beating Steve in the corner, gets shoved off, crossbody on Amon. It looked really good. Does a crossbody from the top rope to the floor onto Amon and Steve. The Void starts double-teaming Amon. The Void starts double-teaming Steve, and then Amon jumps in. Steve breaks out the bag again. Amon knocks out Chase Destiny with a chair, and then they lay the chair flat down. Steve takes him up, like, grabs his head like they're going to do a DDT, and then Amon picks up his legs. So basically they do a spike DDT onto Chase, onto the chair. And I don't know if it was Chase's head or if it was like Steve's back or what it was, or maybe it was there beforehand, I should notice, but there was a dent in like the top part of the chair, so something made some significant impact with that chair. And obviously you've got Gilbert Corsi on the mic. He's like, they've broke his neck. Oh my God, they've broke his neck. Because, I mean, legitimately it looks like they did. I mean, that was a serious looking move. I don't think this was ever an official match. I don't think the bell ever rang. I mean, the ref was like calling for the bell afterwards, but I think that was just to get him out of the ring. But I don't think this was ever an official match. McNaylor comes in the ring to evaluate Nigel. Obviously, yeah, we get it. My note, I hate to make a spoiler here, but I'm going to. My note was, surely this leads to a blow-off match at the Clash in the Bluegrass. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it doesn't lead to a blow-off match at the Clash. At least not as I'm recording this on Thursday night, 2 days before the Clash. I do know the results from episode 1020. It has not been announced that there's going to be a blow-off tag team match between these four. But anyway, Dean Hill's out after the break. This is the last segment. He says basically he's been on the phone with Impact Management, and they say that the way OVE and the Callahan acted is not appropriate, and whatever, you can do whatever you want. He announces OVE against 4 OVW guys, so it's going to be an 8-man tag match at the Clash in the Bluegrass. And then he also announces Sami Callihan against Tony Gunn. I don't know if that's going to be for the OVW Championship. He doesn't say it. I guess my opinion on it would be that it should be, because then that adds, and, okay, yes, again, we know that this is not like professional boxing, but it adds a legitimacy to the title if Sami Callihan is coming down here to wrestle for the OVW Championship. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. And obviously, once I get to the episode 1020 recap, which I may be able to do tomorrow, I'm not sure, and get it out on Saturday after the program comes out. But there's obviously some more layers to that. But anyway, after the match gets announced between Sami and Tony Gunn, Tony's music comes out. He hits the ring, starts cutting a promo. Sami comes out of just the darkness, basically, attacks Tony, attacks Dean Hill. The 4 OVE guys out. Locker room clears out. They all start brawling. They're brawling all around the ring. And you basically cut to black with 10 or 11 guys just brawling on the floor and in the aisleway and over by the broadcast position and just everywhere. And so that's the end of the episode. In general, I really enjoyed this episode of OVW. Obviously, what they're going for is they're trying to set up the March 2nd show, and they did a good job doing it. And so, that's basically what we've got. I'm interested to see where the Thunder Kitty thing goes, because like I say, I don't understand it. I don't get what they're going for. And yeah, the weight class thing. I would love to see weight classes in OVW. I'd love to see them taken seriously. And because it would just give so much more opportunity for these guys who are great workers, but they're limited with size. And so with that, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate everybody listening, and I hope you join me again next week. Have a good one, everybody.